Welcome to Scoop World Order. We are back. We've got our boy B Moses in the building tonight. He's going to talk some Purdue, talk some Ohio State, projections for the second half, what needs to get fixed, and just his general topics on life. We'll get right into that. But first, as always, if you enjoy this content, please click subscribe. Please also like the content and also click that little alert bell. Without further ado, I'm going to get right into it with my boy B Moses. B Moses, how are you?
I'm great, man. I've been looking forward to talking to you all week, brother.
You are. It's always a highlight of my week when we get together midweek. What were your thoughts post Maryland? We beat an undefeated team. We live in a strange world, honestly, where we beat an undefeated team, a good team. I think Mike Loxley does a fantastic job. He recruits. He's got an all-star staff. Kevin Sumlin, really, a lot of talent, a lot of speed, good quarterback. We cover the spread, win by like 20 at home, and people are still miserable. What was your reaction to the win? Should people be less miserable? Do people always just want to walk around and say the sky is falling? What is your opinion on the state of Buckeye Nation at this point?
Man, I've been really contemplating this for a long time, and I've been like thinking about it, like dwelling on it, like the psyche of the Buckeye fan. You know what I mean? Just kind of like a few weeks ago, I asked the question on multiple pages. I said, when's the last time as a Buckeye fan have you been happy? Like even a moment of happiness. And you were getting questions. I mean, you were getting answers going back to freaking Clemson in 2019. So you got that. But ultimately, I'm constantly trying to preach to the people who actually want to listen perspective. And you can still listen. We're going to talk about our deficiencies. I examine games. I rewatch them. I say, okay, why couldn't we do this? Let me see why. We have our concerns, but it seems like people can't walk and chew gum in the sense that be happy that you're 5-0 and beat a team by 20 who's the fourth best Big Ten team, but also still say we need to clean this up. It's almost like they can't do both. And it's mystifying to me. Like, dude, like you can do both. You know this, right? So I was extremely happy after the win, especially how we fought back. We could have folded. We could have crumbled. McCord could have crumbled. He needs to start faster. But we're seeing that he has the intestinal fortitude to step up and make plays when we need him to. That's a great thing you can pluck from a game that was tough to watch and say, you know what? This team is still building. This could be really, really good for us down the stretch. And so that's how I try to think, man. There's a lot of good, even if there's a lot of bad. And people just need to find out how to balance that more, in my opinion, because it's just like, come on, y'all are just miserable. Like, goodness, like you just 0-5.
See, I just have this theory about Ohio sports fan where generally Ohio sports suck. Like the Browns usually stink. The Bengals had traditionally stunk until they got Joe Burrow. The Reds, the Indians, the Cavs, outside of the Cavs winning the title with LeBron, a lot of letdown, a lot of made it to the finals and lose. So, Ohio State is kind of like that's the team that everyone can hang their hat on as always being good, not the worst team in the NBA or the worst team, whatever. So it's like, I feel like when Ohio State doesn't produce or play at an exceptional level, let alone win, heaven forbid they ever lose, it's almost like they just get beat down because that's the team that, nationally is the one that a lot of Ohio State fans represent. Like when people go on vacation, they're rocking Ohio State gear in the South or wherever they go. They go to Vegas, they go to Myrtle Beach, whatever. And so I think that like when Ohio State loses, it's just different because, you're not allowed to lose. And at Ohio State, there's this deal where, people think you got to win 1 or 2 games a year, basically. You got to coach up versus Michigan, coach up versus Penn State, and whoever you see in the Big Ten title game in the playoffs. But the rest of it's just kind of the soft underbelly of the Big Ten. But yeah, I think that, I have different perspective in terms of winning and losing because I coached on a team in 2011 that lost 7 games, the worst team in Ohio State history from a win-loss perspective. So I enjoy every win forever against whoever we play. We could play, an 8th grade Dublin Youth Football League team and beat them, and I will enjoy it just because I've lost 7 in a season. I used to go to those staff meetings on that Sunday after we got whooped by everybody, and including Purdue, who we lost out there. We're going to get into that in a second, but I enjoy every game, and I hope that everyone else does too, because before you know it, you're going to blink and the season's going to be over. Because we're halfway through, and it feels like it just started.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, do you agree with that? I mean, these football seasons fly by, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, listen, that's another thing I've been pounding the table about as well. Is enjoy the games. Like it's miserable during the off season as we're waiting, reading recruiting nuggets and off season nuggets, just trying to hold us over until the season start. And we can't find any joy in our football team from week to week as we're 5-0 building towards something. Like that's my only frustration with fans. And then when you call them out, then their deflection is, oh well, you're just a sunshine pumper, and like how you gonna come at me for pointing out the stuff we gotta get better? Like, dude, we know we gotta get better. Nobody's saying that we don't have issues, but some of the people on these boards on social media, you would think they're just constantly kicking their dog. Like they're never happy, or they can never put it like this. All they do is complain. They never point out anything positive. Or there is just attack. It's just like, dude, I get it. Like, I see some of what you see, but y'all are some maniacs. And it always takes me back to Tressel. And I wish he never would have recanted that quote because he was spot on. Tress. If you listening to this, Tress, you go back in the hot tub time machine and take that renunciation back, bruh. You were spot on when he talked about the miserable fans. Like, nah. God. And so anyway, I'll stop because I'm getting carried away.
No, I mean, that was one of the greatest quotes of all time where he was like, it was so on point because he's just like, he literally, here's the quote. They've got to be some of the most unhappy people in the world. And I feel bad because we just made them less happy. And I hate to be a part of making someone less happy. I mean, they're already miserable, and to make them less happy, I feel bad. That was the greatest quote ever. Because he's talking about how, he used to read his emails. He'd get all these crazy emails because his email address is public record when you're a state employee at Ohio State. Like, you can look his email up, and he would get some wingdings and some crazy stuff. And, it was like hilarious, the stuff that we would get. And he'd read it and he'd respond sometimes and say, I'm sorry that you're less happy. But on to Purdue. Purdue's a funky team. Like I told people, I had the privilege of losing there in 2004. We were good. That was when Troy was the quarterback. And that was our only loss down the stretch. We went I think 5-1 down the stretch, and our one loss was at West Lafayette. Kyle Orton didn't play the entire game, and then he came in the last drive of the game and led them on a 2-minute drive and won the game, which was crazy. And then we lost there in 2011. Coaching staff, obviously Urban had the Dorian, or not Dorian Bryant, the kid from the Cardinals, the Rondell Moore game where they just went ballistic on us. It's a weird place. I tell people, if you haven't been to Purdue, it's maybe the worst stadium in the Big Ten. It's a dump. It's quiet. It's a noon game. The stadium will be half full. There will be no juice. So I don't know if Ryan Day's got to get, if he's got to go hire Future to play a pregame concert inside the locker room, or what he has to do to get these guys turned up a little bit. But he got to do something, because going out on that field is like a mausoleum. Like I said, I'd hire a little baby. I'd hire Future. I'd have one of them do a concert inside the locker room to get it rocking. But what are your thoughts on Purdue? Because they generally stink, like always. But in the past, Purdue teams that have stunk have either beaten us or given us all that we could handle. But your thoughts on this Purdue game coming up?
Yeah, so back in 2018, and the people who follow my page have been following the page for as long as it's been out there, I predicted that L at Purdue. I was scared of that. I don't know why. I just felt it. And so this go around, I don't feel it. Like, I've been watching Purdue. I just watched them against Iowa. And also I was watching the Purdue beat writer or whatever break them down. Listen, man, I took some notes. He was basically waving the white flag. He said he said our defense will probably look as good as we would imagine them to look against their offense. He said they're very banged up. They got a bunch of injuries. No. They're going to be starting a freshman corner. Okay, good luck with that. And me personally watching Hudson Card, he has some tools. I'm not going to say he's trash, but I was not impressed. I mean, that this is not a Purdue team. I was like, dang, man, this might be another house of horrors. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't see it. The only thing that concerns me a little bit is maybe the weather. If it's just like completely crappy, then it might get dicey and we might pull away late. But I think that combined with this O line, which I want to talk to you about if we get a chance, hopefully, getting
Nope.
beat up by national media, local media, their grandmas, when they visited this week, everybody been killing this O line. And I just feel like they're going to come out and play better against the overmatched Purdue team. Travion Henderson back is going to help with that. And I think this is going to be a comfortable win. That's just how I see this game.
I agree on the O line. Again, I've been a part of. I said in the podcast I did in Nevada, half hour ago. I've been a part of great offensive lines at Ohio State and crap, terrible, trash offensive lines. In '04, we were hot trash, and I remember we were 3-3. Jim Bowman brought us into the indoor, talked to us, and he literally asked, like, guys, like, what do we like? I mean, he was like taking our like, what do we need to do to be better? And when he left, I remember Rob Sims said, guys, like, we got to effing play better because they just threatened that man's job. I mean, that talk he gave, it was like they're going to fire him in the middle of the season or try to. Now, I know Tress would never allow that because Tress had a lot of clout at that time after winning the title in '02. But, like, across the street, man, they threatened that man's job. I don't know if it was the athletic director or what it was, but we weren't performing. And we had Rob Sims, who played like 9 years in the league. We had Nick Mangold, who's a Hall of Fame center in the National Football League. Like, we had dudes. I was starting at right tackle as a freshman, but we just weren't playing good, So something had to change, and it was just back to basics, physicality. I mean, there's no magic bean. It's just getting back to basics and just doing your job better. And again, it's not. There's no potion. There's no whatever. Like, our combination blocks are not good right now. We don't get any movement, and that has to change. And we don't get to the second level. So, our combination blocks are as bad as I've seen at Ohio State. And I don't think it's a lack of effort. I don't think it's a lack of intelligence. I don't think that it's because Justin Fry is not trying to do the right things, but the guys got to move guys. They got to play lower. They got to come off the rock. You got to stick to the running game. And frankly, some of our play calls are not great. I broke some down with Nevada where we're running into unblocked fronts where we have no chance of blocking the linebacker who's right in the hole. And we got to get out of those. You got to give these guys a chance to succeed or throw it. If they're going to load the box versus the run, throw it to Marvin, throw it to Mecca, throw it to Carnell Tate or whoever's going to be the number 3 receiver this week if Mecca's out. But yeah, I've seen it all. This is old hat for me. I'm usually the staunch defender of the offensive line in the media just because I've literally been in their shoes as a player and as a coach getting attacked, especially in 2011 when we absolutely sucked. And I just try to stay positive, and there's things to fix. It's not some cosmic, change. It's just these guys have to be better at the fundamentals. And I'm sure they're getting that drilled in their heads very hard by Justin Fry and by Ryan Day because, frankly, the level they're playing at isn't acceptable.
Yeah.
Do you think that the running game breaks out this week with, and we're like 96 in the nation, Trey's been out. I think Chip's an NFL running back. Do you think the running game breaks out this week?
I think I want to say yes, but when you say breaks out, I don't want to make it seem like it's going to be a 300-yard rushing game. I do think we're going to see a better, more efficient running game this week for all the reasons I just mentioned. But I wanted to just quickly touch on, I guess, piggyback on what you said, and maybe even ask a follow-up question real quick.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe Clapp pointed out on the broadcast what we've already mentioned. We've mentioned what he mentioned weeks ago about not getting to the second level, not knowing your assignment, players just not, executing. And so it kind of just put a supreme highlight on it, hence the onslaught of attack on the O-line, and rightly so. So my question is for you in a moment is it fixable? Because there's some people that probably don't think it's fixable. Oh, it just is what it is. We stink. That's just it. I don't agree with that. I believe what's happening definitely can be fixed. But I also wanted to get your thoughts. If you didn't hear Justin Fry's comments, maybe you can go back later. We could talk about it on the scoop board. But I'm paraphrasing. But he basically was saying he could tweak the scheme. It's not a personnel thing. He can tweak the scheme so that he can dial some stuff back so that they're not reading as much. and they're, it's more simplified. And so I
Mhm.
wanted to get your thoughts on that as well, because that makes sense. Josh Fryer, the way he was just trotting slowly to try to get to the linebacker and just bunch the line up and train him, just ran into the back of his player. This is like, come on, man. We gotta we can be better than that. So I do think we're going to be better, but I'm asking you, long term, do you think it's fixable? And do you think what Justin Fry said makes sense, or it will work as far as dialing back what they need to read as an O line?
Yeah, I think it's hard to run the stretch game and run power. They're trying to do both, and they've got a lot of reps of stretch. That's a little short play to the boundary. It's a tight. It's a wide zone play, but you got to pick kind of one and be good at it. You can be a gap scheme team, or you can be a zone scheme team. It's hard to do both. Alex Gibbs, who's the greatest offensive line coach who ever lived, passed away a couple years ago. He was convinced that you could only do one or the other. You could be a zone team, or you could be a gap team. We're trying to do both. We're not great at either. I always liked gap running just because that was like the old power play, the old Dave play. Because the front side three technique, we would absolutely have to rock him out of there, and we were good at that. And again, like when LaDainian Tomlinson ran for 29 touchdowns or whatever it was, broke the NFL record, that was their signature play. It was a play that every team runs. But I think a lot of it is, I think it's hand placement. I talked about it. I know people never think hands with offensive line and double teams, but the guys aren't getting off the double teams to get to the linebackers because they're letting the defensive lineman grab them. So if you're that inside guy and you're trying to get up to the linebacker, and that D tackle's got his hand on your jersey and he's not letting go, then that's a problem. And I also think that guys sometimes are leaving too early. They're too focused on getting to the linebacker. So we don't get as much movement on the double team because the guys are too obsessed with getting up. And I know some of the guys will be like, look, hang on that double team until you smell the linebacker's breath. Like he's got to be like right on you before you leave, and then you'll be in good shape because there's always this focus when you do a combination block and you're blocking one of the defensive tackles and one of the linebackers, where the guy who is generally going linebacker is the guard. He wants to leave like too early. And then the double team's not flush, and then you don't get the correct amount of movement. And all the running plays start at the double team, and you have to move the guy who's getting double teamed. Like that's the signature to the whole play. Like when we used to run power, which used to call 46-47, which is guard pull with the front side double team, the whole play came down to moving the three technique. If we move the three technique, we're going to make yardage. If we don't, we're not going to make yardage. So we were obsessed with just absolutely killing the three technique. It was my favorite play in the world because I used to be the guy that would come down on the three technique and absolutely bury him, murder him. And I think that's the story they got to get back to. And again, I think the kids can do it. And again, Josh Fryer is like a 4th or 5th year guy. Matt Jones is a 6th year guy. Carson is a young guy. He's not playing a lot of power, not playing a lot of confidence. It's evident on film. He's kind of learning on the job. He's a positional guy more than a power guy right now. He needs to get a lot stronger. Donnie has got to play a lot better. And I think that, Josh Simmons he's been okay, but these guys, the one good thing is they have been pass blocking well, which is great. Josh gave up a bad sack last week, and but we haven't given up many sacks for as much as we throw the ball. And frankly, I think you got to throw it to set the run game up. There were some looks against Maryland where, they're playing off on Emeka in the slot, and I'm like, throw Emeka the ball. Like, I mean, we ran the ball and set into an unblocked linebacker where it was an overloaded front, and Mecca has got a guy 10 yards off. I'd catch the ball and just throw it to him. Run a smoke screen. Those things are lethal, and they make the defense play honest. And sometimes when we're being too predictable in our running game, the defenses aren't honest. They got safeties down in the box, and if you're playing a safety down in the box against Marvin and Emeka, then your running game's too predictable. Because I would wear those guys out if they want to play a safety down in the box versus our receivers. They're absolutely crazy. But your thoughts on that? I know that was a long rebuttal, but I'd love your thoughts on that.
No. I like everything that you said. I mean, you said a lot, but it was a lot of good, insightful things. And I agree. I mean, I do think, to your last comment though about running into an unblocked defender when we could have threw it to. I think honestly a part of this is, and here's the thing, I'm putting myself in Ryan Day's mind, because in his press conference he said he learned his lesson. Remember, a lot of media quoted him saying that about running the ball and how important it is down the stretch in the Big Ten, because you're going to need it, the weather, whatever. So I can see him trying to say, listen, man, you guys got to do your job, and we're going to run this ball, and we're going to move some people. I get that, but I also understand the flip side. Like, yo, Abuka's open for an easy 5 to 7 yards, but I can see the conflict in his mind, thinking for later, trying to establish what they need to establish. So that's kind of the catch 22. So I'm with you on that. I do think this Purdue game is going to be at least a somewhat of a breakthrough, where we see the line play more consistent. And again, Henderson being back and just more explosiveness. I think Xavier Johnson. I think this is just a guess. I ain't heard no nuggets or nothing, but I think they're going to bring Xavier back in that position where he was against Georgia, where they were motioning him out of the backfield. I think they're going to hand the ball off to him and get him on the edge, maybe throw him some bubbles, and mix it up. So I think we're going to be a little bit more explosive this week.
Yeah, I think X is going to get more touches out of the backfield. I think that was something that we haven't shown, and this is a good game to show stuff just because X has been kind of a non-factor in the offense, and for a guy who's a captain and does everything the right way, I think he deserves more touches. I think Mayan is kind of slogging a little bit, and he's not what he was last year for whatever reason. And Chip passed him. I mean, I think Chip is an NFL running back. I don't think Mayan is. I think Trey is a potential first or second round pick running back. If he can shake the injury bug. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how much they get out of how much they get out of Trey this week, given it is a game where we're huge favorites, and you got Penn State looming. Do you push Trey in a game where you don't really need him, or do you save him to get more fully rested up for Penn State? Because that's going to be a war. And then you got Wisconsin. I mean, this is a real stretch right here. I mean, Purdue is the sneaky one. And, again, if you haven't been to West Lafayette, it's an armpit. It's an absolute dump. And I always worry about these guys looking ahead because the whole world wants to see that Penn State game. Because that's going to be game of the week, game day, big noon kickoff. Everyone's going to be in town for that one. But we're going to wrap this thing up. Your final thoughts, your projections for this game, predictions, MVP. Give me how you see this game playing out versus the Purdue Boilermakers.
I think, first of all, I don't think Purdue is going to score much. I think our defense is going to absolutely smother them. Wisconsin beat them by 3 touchdowns, and Wisconsin is cool, but I don't know. I think we're going to jump out to like a 17-3 lead, and then maybe slow up a little bit, and then the second half will pour it on more. I got like a 41-10 or 41-9 type of game. As far as MVP goes, I also think our D line is starting to wake up more. I think they're starting to get more energy and more confidence. I think Caden Curry, I think he's earned more reps. I think he's going to get a sack. And as far as the MVP, man, I'm so tempted to pick Proctor. Man, I listen. I've always liked Proctor, but I love Proctor now. And that dude, I mean, he's a dog. So I'm tempted to pick Proctor, but I think Sonny Styles is going to be the MVP on defense, and on offense is going to be Henderson with him returning. I do think as far as your point about them saving him for Penn State, I think because it's an upper body rib issue, sore ribs, and not like a structural ankle type of issue, I think he's a little safer than last year's foot issue to go out there and get some carries.
Yeah, I mean, those are just a pain tolerance thing, but why be in pain if you don't have to when you're playing a team that's, you're a 20-point favorite on? So, again, I mean, there's that fine balance between taking care of the guy and making sure that he's healed up versus making sure he keeps his conditioning. Because that's the thing I worry about is when these guys are out and they're jogging on the side or they're limited in practice, like, you can't keep your conditioning. You don't get that same game day conditioning experience. And, it's going to be interesting because like last week was kind of weird because they declared him out and then he went out and warmed up, which you never see. Normally guys will come out and warm up and then they'll declare him out, but he was declared out and then he went out and warmed up. So that was weird to see. Well, B Moses, as always, I appreciate you, brother. Let's do this every week. We got a little stretch here as the games are cranking up. So you good to go next Wednesday?
Absolutely. And for the big game, we might have to do 2. next
Well,
week.
hey,
We'll see though.
I'm always down, bro. I appreciate you so much. You are the best. Shout out your socials real quick, people.
Oh,
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. What are your socials and the pages they can follow you at? Other than Buckeye Scoop, where B Moses is a proud, awesome contributor.
yep. B Moses 30 on Twitter. Make sure you go and follow Buckeye Sports Talk with B Moses on Facebook and on Instagram. And that's it. Yeah. And holler at me on the board.
Yeah, I'll see you on the board, brother. I always love when you get those plugs in. Appreciate you, my man. As always, B Moses is the best. He is a absolute classic of a guy. Always brings a fresh perspective. Great guy to have on here. Appreciate you guys always. If you enjoy this content, please leave us a like, click subscribe. Also, click that little alert bell. You get alert when we go live. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Had a little double decker today, so I hope you guys enjoyed both episodes. Send this to your friends as well. If you guys want to be a part of the best Ohio State experience on the web, join BuckeyeScoop.com. Great Christmas gift. Christmas stuff starting to make its way into stores. Is an awesome Christmas gift for anybody that loves Ohio State sports. It's a fun, amazing environment. We love being on there. So thank you all so much. We appreciate you guys. With that being said, thank you so much, Buckeye Nation. Thank you, Scoop family. Leave your comments down below. I want to read who you think is going to be the MVP of the Purdue game. Give me your predictions. Go Bucks.